I can't believe I have to drive all the way to work on a Saturday. All the way to work!
Yeah, this one's tough. Anytime you have to put out a press release on a Saturday in a weekend that you are not racing, in fact, a weekend that you have not been racing for a couple of weeks now, little inside baseball here. That's when you don't want a lot of the smoke that's about to come out because Mexico City is not happening for IndyCar next year. And this has been something that has been talked about and talked about and talked about. And we've got the receipts, thanks to some of our friends in the media. Talking about you, Mr. Sternbaum. It's this disappointing, number one. Like right off the bat, extremely disappointing, extremely frustrating in some ways to see this much talk, this much effort, this much desire from the entire paddock from the top on down, and for it to not happen. It's tough. It's a really tough look. The good news, I guess, is this probably finally means we are going to get a schedule. We will talk about the schedule towards the end of this video and the things that we expect to happen, or at least the possibilities that might still come down the line, because I expect that the schedule will come out very soon now. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But we need to talk about this Mexico City thing because IndyCar put out a statement today about the future of the Mexico City race, at least for now. IndyCar put out a statement on an update of the 2026 schedule, confirming that a race at Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez will not happen as a part of next year's schedule. Here's a statement from Mark Miles. For more than a year, we have been working diligently to bring the NTT IndyCar Series to Mexico City's Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, Penske Entertainment Corp. President and CEO Mark Miles said. While extensive progress was made alongside the venue's operating group and our potential promoter, ultimately, the significant impact of next year's World Cup, we'll talk about that here in just a second, proved too challenging to ensure a successful event given the available summer dates. While we absolutely want to race in Mexico, we want to ensure everyone involved feels the conditions are in place to plan a world-class and highly engaging race weekend. We will keep working to bring our racing to Mexico and hope for an event to be on the schedule as soon as the right opportunity presents itself. There is also a statement from Pato O'Ward. No one wants a race in Mexico more than me, says Pato. We want to create an incredible event that is built to last, that requires the right date and the right year for fans and sponsors to get fully behind our sport. I'm motivated to carry this effort forward and take place in a future race in my home country. I suppose I will say this, despite the timing of the press release, which I still find a bit questionable to do it on a Saturday morning, because let's be honest, the ball was rolling down the hill on this not happening for quite a while. And maybe they got a call Friday night that said to them, hey, Mexico City's not happening. I suppose we can give them the benefit of the doubt on that one. But I suppose I do appreciate that Mark Miles was willing to put a statement out and own it. Bare minimum, yes. But look, it's tough. It's tough. And we're going to get into some of the receipts, some of the things that have not only happened over the past year, but over the past decade when we talk about Mexico City and IndyCar racing. The World Cup aspect of it, and we'll get into it a little bit deeper later. In fact, I'm going to bring this up right now. NASCAR raced in Mexico City at the Hermanos Rodriguez circuit this year and chose to not return the following year in 2026. And one of the stated reasons was that the World Cup was a complication. So that's a built-in excuse for a lot of these series. Now, one of the things I heard about, and again, you can take it with a grain of salt, but one of the things that I had heard about the Mexico race is that the crowd wasn't up to expectations with what they thought they were going to get, right? So when we go back here, we're talking about the World Cup, which is a huge Fox Sports property, right? That, number one, causes issues. We talk a lot about TV windows. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the video as well. And that's going to be a complication, not only from a Fox perspective, but if you look at globally, what are the two international races that IndyCar was looking at either adding to the schedule this year or keeping on the schedule for next year? It was Toronto, which is not happening because of the World Cup. That actually is because of the World Cup, because they were able to find an alternative venue in Markham, and Markham is now, for the foreseeable future, and I would even probably go out on a limb and say Markham is the new home for IndyCar racing in Canada, because of course they have a 5-year contract. And the World Cup's also being used as an excuse for the IndyCars not being able to race in Mexico City. Before we get into kind of more of the whys about why this happened, I think this is disappointing on a lot of levels. I mentioned the paddock, top on down, wanted this to happen. And a lot of partners wanted this to happen. And while we don't have a lot of on-the-record comments, I can tell you it's not just this partner that is probably a little bit upset that IndyCar is not racing in Mexico. But Mike Parra is the CEO of DHL Express. DHL, one of the biggest sponsors of Chip Ganassi Racing, one of the biggest sponsors in the sport right now, from hey, we're putting our name on the side of a car, because, of course, they sponsor Alex Palou, who is the championship winner, won the most races this year, wrapped up the championship with 2 races to go. And, oh, by the way, he won some little race called the Indianapolis 500. And this particular car and this particular sponsor are going to be used a lot to promote racing over the next 365 days. So when Mike says something to the effect of, I look forward to something happening next year, which I've been pitching to Mark Miles and the team for a long time, and that is, we're going to Mexico, he states like a fact. That is absolutely exciting for someone like myself. We are a big group of people there in that marketplace. I look forward to seeing a sea of yellow in Mexico, and I'm sure we're going to be competing with Pato there from that perspective. We've got a global audience that's tuning in. Alex is in Spain and is growing. We've got a lot of media attention there as well. I mean, for international companies, of which, in this day and age, most companies are international, right? That's just an accepted fact. We have a globalized marketplace. It is definitely important to a certain extent for IndyCar to not just race in the United States. Now, should IndyCar not fully focus on the United States? Should the United States not be number one priority for IndyCar? IndyCar, yes, it's a U.S.-based series. U.S.-based races have to take priority. But when you look at the amount of money that's being spent, the partners that are obviously invested to the extent of a DHL or others, races in Mexico City or anywhere with that kind of international pull, super duper important. So when we talk about them for as long as we have talked about them, for example, my boys Adam Stern and NASCAR, man, boy, they have a lot of receipts. When we've been talking about Mexico City and IndyCar being a thing and potentially a thing for over 10 years, and oh, by the way, it's the same name bringing that up 10 years ago. I know how I feel about it. I have a suspicion I know how some of the partners feel about it. I know how you fans probably feel about it. That's tough. There are some more excuses, which I think are totally legitimate. And you look at the venue, right? Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. One of the big factors with that particular racetrack, and I get it, there are not a lot of options in Mexico City, or Mexico, the country in general, is the fact that it is a Formula One venue. And when you have Formula One involved, just ask Champ Car this, just ask Kart this, ask any series that's tried to go internationally that has open wheels and are racing machines that are similar in style and performance to Formula One cars. It is tough to put on a marquee event at a Formula One race. Even more difficult when the ticket prices and some of the things that go into the sanctioning of the race are controlled by companies owned by Formula One. Ticketmaster, Everybody loves Ticketmaster. If you like Taylor Swift, I'm sure you have a big, happy relationship with Ticketmaster. They're owned by Live Nation Entertainment. Live Nation Entertainment is owned by Liberty Media. It's very interesting. They also, of course, own Formula One. They also own SiriusXM, which sponsors a racing team in the IndyCar series. So you would think they wouldn't totally bite the hand that feeds them on that one. But yes, that's tough. And I think that was a major factor in this one. Major factor in this one. You know, when we talk about, yes, the World Cup and yes, dates, a big issue. But based on my understanding, there was a lot of money talk and prices going up that also contributed pretty heavily to this falling apart, I suppose. And I guess we got to, discuss one of the elephants in the room, which is one of the reasons that this got so hot and heavy as a debate and as a factor, and something that was so important for Mark Miles to deliver on were comments that he made about Mexico City and specifically about Pato O'Ward at Milwaukee last year. And specifically that, there was some talk that Mexico City promoters told IndyCar officials that neither the series nor O'Ward were at a level that could command a crowd worthy of that. And then Mark went on to say that, Pato wasn't on billboards and that Adrian Fernandez was more popular, which, by the way, if you want to look at, apples to oranges, no dip, Sherlock. Kart was more popular than IndyCar is now, right? So by extension, Adrian Fernandez was more popular at the time. Let's say 2002. Adrian Fernandez is more popular in 2002 than Pato O'Ward is popular in 2022, right? But when we look at the size of the series and the comparative size and impact of each of those drivers, Pato O'Ward's a way bigger star than Adrian Fernandez ever was. At least to their respective series, right? Now, that being said, there was a statement that was pretty quickly put out by Mark, which was, look, Mark walked back those comments, but I think a lot of the feeling, the sentiment, and some of the pain of those comments that Mark made at Milwaukee last year have stuck with the paddock, have stuck with IndyCar fans, and I think a lot of people expected that Mark would get it done after talking all that talk. Didn't get it done. That falls on his shoulders. At the end of the day, the onus is on him. And again, based on the press release, he's taking the flack for it. Then we go back here. 10 years. 10 years. That's tough. That's tough, race fans. Let's talk a little bit about the schedule. Because I again, expect the schedule is going to come out pretty soon. And I guess we'll talk through one last time some of the things we expect to be on there. Phoenix, doubleheader with NASCAR. We're not exactly sure where it will fall, whether it's a lead-in from the Cup race or whether it's a Saturday headliner under the lights. That was first reported here, by the way. Hi. That's going to be really cool. It will be a triple header to start the season with St. Petersburg and the Truck Series starting off the season on the streets. Then you go the next week to Phoenix, and then the new event in Arlington, Texas, which I feel like we just are beginning to forget that Arlington. We talk about all these other new events. We announced Arlington so early that now it's like Arlington's almost like we haven't even run a race in Arlington yet. We're kind of like brushing over the fact that, hey, Arlington's a new event, right? So that'll be a really strong start to the season. Really positive. Looking forward to that. I already mentioned Markham, new street event in Canada. We'll see how that all works out. As I mentioned, I'm really happy that the Canadian fans get to keep a race. You guys absolutely deserve that as fans. Being able to go to Exhibition Place last year, or this year, a month ago, was a privilege. And you guys are awesome fans. So looking forward to checking out Markham next year. And then we kind of get into some of the less confirmed things, I guess we'll say. Washington, D.C., which I guess now we are just expecting is going to be the replacement for Mexico. supposedly it's a temporary circuit, which we are less than a year away from this happening. And yes, I'm sure there's been some work done behind the scenes to make Washington, D.C. happen. But I am sitting here going, wait a minute. I mean, this is going to be a pretty tight turnaround to get this done. And I'm not saying they can't do it. Not saying I don't have faith in them, but I'm just saying that street courses, you typically want a real long runway. And this doesn't seem like it's a very long runway to get that plane down before it goes off of the end of it. So I hope it works out, because I think there are some good aspects to, running a race in Washington, D.C. We know that it's the 250th anniversary of the United States as we know it, right? So I'm sure Fox is excited about that. And so they will probably promote it. I'm curious about where the course will be laid out, how close to some of the hotter spots in Washington, D.C. it will be. We'll see. Lots of things there that I'm curious about. I'm also still curious about where the season finale is going to be. I don't think we were really expecting that was going to be a question mark, but it is. The most likely candidate to, if Nashville's replaced, which I hope it is not replaced, I am going to continue to stand on my opinion that you have to finish on an oval. And you have to finish on a track that can produce a race like Nashville Superspeedway. But there has been talk. 100% there has been talk of ending on a road course. Some insight that I received that I didn't really think about or consider, and I guess I'll just throw out there because I believe it's been talked about, is that you might want to end on a road course, or at least some of the logic of ending on a road course would be to preserve the TV window in case of rain, which I guess, but I'm almost willing to present the World Championship Overthinker Award to the folks who are thinking that, because when was the last time? I mean, we're talking like the races that I can think of on ovals that have been affected by rain have been the Indy 500 the last 2 years. And I'm not saying it doesn't rain in Nashville, because boy, oh boy, last time I attended the street course race, we got dumped on. But I wouldn't say I wouldn't say this. Don't be surprised if Laguna is the season finale. So we'll see. There's going to be a lot to discuss here in the next few days and hours. But I think a lot of people are disappointed about Mexico City, and let me know down in the comments. Subscribe, like the video. All the way to work on a Saturday. All the way to work. Wow. Yeah, it's disappointing. Disappointing. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.